Good afternoon, everyone, and warm welcome to Industry Insight into Information Technology, hosted by Opportunity Wyndham. My name is Yasin Hassan. I'm the Senior Inclusive Employment Officer at Wyndham. I'm joined today by my colleagues Shannon and Liam. Liam is helping us with the tech support today and managing the chat function and any questions you may have for our lovely, wonderful panel members. I would like to start our session today with acknowledgement of country. Wyndham City Council recognizes Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first people of Australia. We acknowledge the Bunurong and Wurrung people as the traditional owners of the lands on which Wyndham City operates. The Wurrung and Bunurong people have and always will belong to the Werribee Yallook River, creeks, stars, hills, and red clay of this country. We pay respect to their ancestors and elders who always have and always will care for country and community. Industry Insights sessions, a little bit of a background. Industry Insights sessions help local professionals and aspiring individuals hear from industry leaders. You will hear about current trends, explore job opportunities, and get practical advice for succeeding in competitive job market. It's a great opportunity to hear from experts, listen to their stories, and gain valuable knowledge for your career success. A little bit about Opportunity Wyndham. Opportunity Wyndham empowers local businesses to build inclusive workplace by providing free recruitment tools, resources, and access to local talent. This initiative creates a strong, trusted relationship which addresses structural barriers to employment and find meaningful and sustainable jobs for local people. Opportunity Wyndham is a partnership between Wyndham City Council, local employment and education service providers, with the support of Victorian State Government. So before I go into the panel members, I would like to go through some housekeeping. So we are using Teams today. So if you're not speaking, please put your microphone on mute. We have 4 panel members. I'll introduce each panel member using a short bio and ask them 4 questions each. Then we'll have Q&A session where you will have opportunity to directly ask questions. If you have any question in the meantime, feel free to share it in the chat. This session is recorded. The recordings will be available on our website after it goes through required process. We will send follow-up email with shared resources and relevant links. Now going to the panel discussion. On behalf of Opportunity Wyndham, I would like to now introduce our first panel member. And that will be Rowan Christine, Senior Assistant Officer at Wyndham City Council. Rowan began her career in local government, starting in mailrooms during school holidays. Her interest in process reengineering and system upgrades grew while working with new documents management system. She became an accredited trainer and implementation partner for major electronic document and record management system, EDRMS, in Australia. Bron then worked at Melbourne University on key IT projects, including email and calendar implementation for 10,000 staff, the rollout of travel portal, and establishing service desks like 13 Mel. Later, she returned to local government, focusing on IT support, and successfully integrated her skills into various projects. Thank you, Bronwyn, for joining us today.
Thanks, Yasin.
First question. You started and returned to local government. What motivated you to come back to local government?
Probably a couple of main reasons. So I'd been on the other side of local government. It was a time of compulsive competitive tendering and being agency staff. I'd worked as agency staff, so the outsiders, and then I'd moved across to being sort of a consultant implementing systems. So I'd seen local government from that side. Then I'd moved across, and that was a lot in the electronic document management space or the document management space back in the day, showing my age. But a job came up locally, and I'd never worked locally before in my life. I'd often had a lot of travel interstate with the work that I'd been doing. And the notion of being nearby, being part of the community in which I worked, and also knowing the vast services that are offered and the various areas within local government really drew me back. the other thing was it was back to the EDRMS side of things. I'd been working on different IT projects, and I kind of moved back to my roots, back to that records management side of things. And there's a different structure that comes with that. So it was a brand new system that they were implementing at Wyndham. And yeah, I put my hand up, and I was lucky enough to actually be given the opportunity here and began the rollout of our electronic document management system objective. And it was a major project in the organisation. And yeah, I sort of haven't looked back. So it was being part of the community. I had stepkids at that time as well, and being able to be nearby for them, understanding the services we were offering. I was sort of getting a little bit of inside information around that side of thing, and that awareness that you sometimes don't have when you're just out in the community in other ways.
Awesome. That's really great. Second question, which leads us to, how's your experience working in Wyndham City Council?
So varied, so varied. The first project, the document management system rollout, that was really jumping in the deep end. That was the opportunity to work with every single area in the organisation. We were doing their processes, doing the training, configuring the system to make sure it was meeting people's needs, and really working closely. The project team itself had about half a dozen core people, then it was made up of about 35 or 40 other SMEs within the organisation. So working really closely with those people opened up opportunities in other parts of council as well. It led to different options that were available. So you'd be working with engineering one day and you'd start to learn around how the IT is working in the engineering space, and then the next day you're working with the maternal child and health, for instance. So that opportunity to see things from all different facets, and I'm a service provider within the organisation. So the customer service side of things has been amazing for me as well. And then moved on to other things, like when COVID hit, because of that exposure around the organisation, we had the opportunity to get brought into what they called a virtual support and wellbeing group, and that was for both staff and the community. So we did things like roll out teams to the organisation and set up all the business rules around that, and the training, and so much documentation. We also rolled out an immunisation booking system so the community could start to book their own sessions. That was unheard of. So other online services that were going out for, the youth counsellors and the play groups and the kinders and all of the other different community groups, and telehealth. We introduced telehealth into the organisation, which hadn't been done at local government either. So our maternal child and health nurses were visually looking at little tiny babies and measuring their hips, and our youth counsellors were meeting with people all across. Didn't matter where they were, they could have that visual contact, which was so incredibly important. So this little electronic document management job that started off in a school holidays in a mailroom has now led to exposure to a whole range of different systems, different people, different services. So it's been pretty impressive.
That's amazing. You had a very dynamic work and different aspect of teams in Wyndham, which is really great. Yep. You mentioned a lot of projects. Yep. Which one is your favorite so far?
Look, I think probably during the pandemic, because we did so many different projects, because we had to work so fast, because I was in a team of all different people that we'd never worked together. So they were long hours, they were long days. The pressure was high. But for me, that group of projects over that sort of 12-month period, they've got a real soft spot in my heart. So yeah, I don't think you can say one when you've done lots of different ones like this.
Fair enough. No, that's amazing, and I'm sure all of them are making a lot of staff life much easier, and community members as well.
And that's the bonus, seeing the difference it makes. Like sometimes you'd be on phone calls to members of the community trying to get them online to Teams when it was all new, or trying to get things working with them. And it's really nice to see when you can actually do something and they're happy at the end.
That's awesome. What advice do you have for those who wanted to start their career in EDRMS?
I think a lot of people spend a lot of time studying and trying to get the degrees, and that's important. It's 100% important. But I guess I did the agency thing, just getting that exposure, that EDRMS is one element of a lot of different things. You could start through the governance angle. You could come in from libraries. You could come in from a document management background. You could start on a help desk. So whilst the education side is important, you can start getting experience at any age. It doesn't have to be specifically in this space. So.
Awesome. That's really great advice. Thank you so much, Bronwyn. That's very helpful. And just to remind our attendees, you will have the opportunity to ask questions directly after our panel members. I will now move on to our next panel member. That's Manjusha Akhtar. Manjusha is a principal in data and AI at Codex. She was a director at AOI and Deloitte. She's an executive committee member of the Australian Computer Society. Manjusha led a multi-billion data platform for project for Australian wealth management. She also worked on risk data compliance for major bank and master data management for the Department of Transport. Her skills include data management, governance, and analytics. Manjusha is passionate about ICT sector. She's actively supporting women in technology, leading initiatives that help them grow personally and professionally. Thank you so much, Manjusha, for joining us today.
Thank you, Yasin.
My first question will be, you led very complex and large projects in the IT sector. Can you share a lesson you learned from some of the challenging projects you led?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, there are a lot of challenges that you need to look out for when you are looking at our big programs. But what I found more critical is getting all the stakeholders on the same page, especially when you have stakeholders at different locations, maybe across the boundaries, across the countries. That time, the developer who is working on a project to a sponsor who is actually putting their money, they all need to be aligned on the goals and objective that you want to achieve. And if they are not aligned, then there is a lot of chaos. Everyone expects something different and deliver something else. So stakeholder engagement and management is most important for the big projects.
Awesome. How can professionals transition from their roles to leadership roles in technology?
That's an interesting question, Yasin, because what I believe is leadership is not by the role or title that you have, but the leadership is leading the span of control that you have right now. For example, if somebody is having a couple of years experience in their organization and they are seeing new graduates coming in, are they actually reaching out and helping them? That's the leadership for me. Or if you are in some technology domain or a specific domain, like maybe you are heading some childcare project or something, are you someone people go to for advice in that particular area? It can be like Power BI technology or something you are doing on, say, AI. So leadership in your span of control is very important. And once you start doing that, taking the leadership roles also becomes very easy. So you don't have to become a manager to become a leader.
That's wonderful advice. Thank you for that. And that leads us to what advice do you have someone trying to specialize in data analytics?
Yeah, yes, that's a data analytics is such a wide field, and I never stopped learning. Like every time I think, oh, I don't know this at all, so I have to learn something new. Like right now, I'm working on GIS technology, I'm working on security and all those, and everything is new for me. So when you are entering this field, look at what you actually want to choose. Like a lot of people think that I want to become a data scientist. What that actually means, data scientist is like you are building your models is only 10% of the book, but getting that data, understanding what business wants to do with that data, cleansing it, data engineering is 90% book. So trying to understand the business problem that you are trying to solve will make you a better data analyst than just looking at the tools and technologies. So try to understand business perspective whenever you are going as a consultant or anyone in the business and try to solve the problem. Then looking at, oh, do I know Python? Do I know R? That technology is very easy to grasp. So that's what my advice would be.
That's great advice. Manjusha, you support and passionate about helping women into the IT sector. How can women in tech advance their career in male-dominated industry?
Yeah, that's actually a very heavy-weighted question, I would think. But if I had to answer it, I was on the panel for this last week for the Staying for Women, and we had women from different backgrounds. That there were some people from law, some people for who are actually real scientists, not data scientists, discovering some new drugs and all that. So that panel was there actually. And what a common theme which evolved throughout is like you don't have to actually change your feminine qualities to fit in. You need to actually adopt them, embrace them, because sometimes as a woman leader, you can be more empathetic to your teams. You can understand their needs better. So that is a very, very good power to become a leader. So you don't have to actually fit in or change yourself to get adopted. Now, if you see some other women struggling to get them heard, are you actually stepping up and helping them? That's very important. Other thing I would also advise that try to build a support network around you. It doesn't have to be all women. It can be men, your colleagues, male colleagues as well. But try to build a support network which you can always rely on when you need them. It's like give and take, like how you are helping others and how you are getting help, in turn. So it is also building that kind of thing. Other thing which helped me a lot is getting a coach as well, whether it is a paid coach or unpaid coach, like somebody from your organization or somebody from, say, like I'm working in ACS, so I do have some coaches through ACS as well. So those kind of coaches you should have, mentors or coaches, whatever you want to call, and very importantly, they don't need to look like you. You can have a totally diverse coach, which is from different country or different background, can be male as well, can be female, doesn't matter. But have those mentors and coaches throughout your journey, whatever phase you are. It doesn't have to be like you are junior, that's why you need a coach. Like today also I need a coach. So it is like never stopping journey. So you really want to get adapted in this field and speak out. Don't have to be shy or think that, oh, you need 100 qualifications to talk in the meeting, because I see a lot of women have very good points but they shy away. So try to express yourself as often as you can. So those are my advice. I mean, I can talk for hours on this topic actually. So yeah.
I'm sure you're passionate about it, and that gives you the knowledge and the energy, I think, to talk about it a lot. But thank you so much. That's really great advice, and having mentorship is really important. And for you to reiterate that just shows how important it is and how helpful it is in advancing your career in IT.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Manjusha. Now we move on to our third panel member, and appreciate Manjusha and Bronwyn for waiting for us and waiting for Q&As at the end of the panel discussions. We have two more panel members. Our third panel member is Ling Wei. So Ling Li, our data analyst at Wyndham City Council. Ling Li, originally from Malaysia, holds a Bachelor of Information Technology from Monash University. She began her career at Wyndham City Council as an associate digital developer and has been with the council for 3 years. Ling Li recently transitioned to data analyst role, where she embraces new challenges and continues to expand her IT skill set. She values her collaborative and diverse culture at Wyndham, which supports her ongoing personal and professional growth. Ling Li, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks.
My first question, how was your transition from university to your first role as an associate in Wyndham City Council?
So I graduated with a Bachelor of IT in Monash in 2021, so majoring in business info systems and also minor in both software development and business analytics. So a pretty kind of balanced mental soft skills and more technical skills kind of majors, IT majors. During my final year, because in Australia, they normally promote graduate programs. So I was applying to those graduate programs in my final year uni, but I wasn't still able to land the grad role yet. And then post-graduation, I still continue to apply for roles, such as from platforms from SIG, like my Monash Uni Careers platform, LinkedIn, etc. Funny enough, initially on LinkedIn, I stumbled across the Wyndham's IT role, but that was for the associate support officer role. That wasn't really aligned to what I studied, to be honest. And then I had a look on the Wyndham Council page, and they actually have another role, which was the associate developer role. And that was more aligned to my minor studies in software development. And I basically gave it a shot. So basically my CV was shortlisted, and then I did the interviews. So there was 2 rounds. This also during COVID as well. So during the first round was doing just an online interviews with my manager and also my senior dev at that time. And also after that, there was also like a technical test that I had to go through. And I think after 1-2 weeks, I managed to get a call back from manager saying that I landed the role of associate developer. So that was pretty cool. And I was part of the data analytics and integration team, so the DAI within the IT space, which were kind of more technical coding kind of team in the sense of that.
Awesome. That's really great. And how did your associate role shape your career path?
So in my associate dev role, I was mainly managing the digital application we have at Wyndham. So but to be fair, a lot of coding knowledge was learned on the job, considering I was like a fresh grad. I didn't really have like a understanding of everything that's happening in industry yet at the point. And for my role, I also did both front end and back end tasks. So other than coding, which mainly I did in PHP, JavaScript, SQL, C#, and etc. There's also some other IT stuff like we normally do within the project, so like documentation, testing, and I think essentially the communication skills within the team as well, and the business users, which are our internal stakeholders in that sense. For me personally, with how my first job kind of shaped me, for me is that when I was given a task or project, I'll take ownership into my work and able to work on my own for the most part. But when I'm faced with blockers, I still know when to reach out for help. So it's more making sure that complete my tasks within a timely manner and making sure that everything's all good to go within the set deadline as well. In terms of how it shaped my career path to my current data analyst role, with my old role, I also worked with SQL, and also my previous uni minor in business analytics did help me set out for this data analyst role as well. When the job ad was out, I was also recommended by a team to apply for the position because they know how I work and also know that I was capable to take on the role as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And how you mentioned that your Wyndham City Council, your team members being collaborative and diverse. How's your experience working in Wyndham?
So I think within the IT department, in terms of collaboration, IT, we can have like different sub teams as well. So for the main branches, I can think of as IT operations, IT governance, and for what I'm under is business systems. So in some projects, so some people from the IT operations infrastructure, we had to work with them. In terms of governance, we need like a project manager. So in terms of like everyone has their own different roles and expertise. So it's kind of remarkable seeing that everyone works together and making sure that the project they were put in is a success as well. That's a really good feeling, making sure that everything's all good and all nice. Because at the end of the day, I guess wherever we help for our internal stakeholders, that in turn, in terms of, for example, we help for customer service thing, that in turn help the community as well on the long run. So in terms of diverse backgrounds, I'm personally from Malaysia, Chinese Malaysian, and then in my team we also have local Australians and then people from India, Philippines, New Zealand, etc. So it's pretty diverse knowing other people's cultures as well. Pretty cool in that sense.
That's really great. Last question. What advice do you have for someone starting out their IT career?
So I would say, I think one of the kind of learnings that I learned is that apply for a job role that at least you're interested in, although you can't hit 100% of the job description. Because I know that some people be like, oh, but I don't know this. But I was like, but into me is that as long you're willing to learn and demonstrate that trait during the interview, I personally think if you hit like 60 or 70%, that's my personal gauge. I think that would be good enough, and just try and apply for it and see how it goes. Because a lot of people can't really hit the 100% of the job CV anyways for the most part. And it's a lot of things I learned from the go, especially in the IT space. And for another advice I would think of is just at least doing the job market I heard right now is really, really bad. And I personally was an international student as well. So back then, there were not many opportunities given in the first place. So just apply to a lot of companies or like industries. Not just, you don't have to be just applying for like the big companies or in this particular very like Facebook, Google, like the very big tech companies, I would say. Just apply to any of them and see how it goes. Because I think as long as you got your first job breakthrough, that's the most important thing. Because as the more you do job interviews, the more experience you gain and it becomes easier as well. And it's also good to identify your interview shortcomings, and if you can get feedback in terms of, oh, if you got rejected, try to get feedback from recruiters and tell and try to improve on those shortcomings. And yeah, just don't give up to get your first job as well, I would say. It took, if I were to add on in terms of trying to find a job since my last year of uni, it took about 1.5 years before landing my job at Wyndham Council. So yeah, I guess it's just never stop trying and then offer the best and try improving yourself with that.
That's really great. Thank you, Lily, and that's good insight for you to let us know how long it took you, and it's not easy
Yeah,
trying
it's
to
not
land your
easy.
first job.
I wouldn't say it's not. No, it's not.
Yeah, some people may be lucky, but I think a lot of
Mm.
people find that it's challenging, and it's good advice that don't just look for the big ones. Get started, and anywhere you can get started, you can get a sustainable or good job to get your foot into the door. That's good start.
Mhm.
Thank you, Lingli. Now moving on to our final panel member, Dylan Jayasakara. Dylan is a data analyst and consultant at Pitcher Partners in Melbourne, specializing in data engineering and architecture. After moving to Melbourne in 2017 for his master's in IT, he faced the challenge of job seeking as an international student. In 2022, he was nominated for Australia's Computer Society's Emerging Professionals of the Year award. Dylan has served as vice chair of the ACS Emerging Professionals Committee and is now on the branch executive committee. He also helps bridge cultural gaps for international students and serves on Standards Australia's Artificial Intelligence Committee. Thank you, Dylan, and welcome.
Thank you for having me, Yasin. Great to be here.
Thank you. First question, can you share a bit about your job search, graduated master's as an international student?
Yes, so I guess I took a different approach compared to traditional job search. When I was in my last year in my uni, in my final semester actually, I found out that 80% of the jobs in Melbourne are hidden jobs and not really advertised anywhere. And then once I realized that, I started going into these networking events to check whether it's actually true, because I had doubts whether that's actually true or not, because there are all the websites, Seek, Jora, LinkedIn Jobs, and everything that has tons of jobs advertised. So I just wanted to see whether that's the truth. So I started going into all these networking events, and back then I wanted to start as a data analyst internship. And then I started looking into data analysis and data science networking events, meetups in Melbourne. And then I started going into all these networking events. And I still remember the first time, which was very sort of a anxious feeling for me, just being in the room full of 50 other people. And then I was just in the corner, just looking at everyone and then seeing whatever is happening in the room. But then I kept myself, pushed myself forward, and then started going into the next one as well. And then I've just tried doing a few other networking events like that. And then I was able to push myself forward and then go to a stranger and then say hello and then just start a small talk and then start the conversation. So things like that really helped me with my soft skill side, with my confidence, and then just going out and then having that talk. So through these networking events, I found someone who was looking for interns for a data analyst slash software developer sort of a role. And then through that, I was able to get my first internship. So I guess, so then that sort of like validated my doubt that I had a few months ago, whether that this actually works or not. So it really actually worked. And then I did my internship for 3 months, and then even in the internship, so by the time that I get to the end of the internship, the person that I reported into knew someone, a supervisor, sorry, a manager at Pitcher Partners, the current place that I work in. And then he recommended me as a graduate data analyst. So then I went through that process and then went into the interview and things like that as well. So it's pretty much that job search for me is pretty much through all the networking and then the relationships that I built throughout since 2018, 2019. And then one thing to highlight is in the interview itself, whenever I'm having that chat, it didn't feel to me like an interview because I already had this going out to a stranger and then have a chat is something that I experienced for the last 6-7 months by going into these networking events. So that really helped me. So I guess that job search for me after graduating from my master's is purely on a path where it has networking.
Awesome. Thank you, Dylan. That's amazing answer. And just I see that the chat function is going lighting up. Thank you, Liam, for managing that. And a good reminder that after we finish our panel discussion, a Q&A will be opened for attendees to ask questions directly. Dylan, you already kind of covered my second question, and good to know that you research and how many jobs that are there compared to the ones that are hidden. It's great. I know the statistics are the highest, but it's really good, valuable tip for anyone who's trying to get the first job or IT job. You mentioned how important your journey was when it comes to having connections and networking. What advice will you give for young IT professionals when it comes to networking and making the right connections?
Yeah, so my advice through my experience is that mostly IT professionals, and especially if you're from another country, if you're same as myself, like an international student, like culturally we were raised up when we were kids to get good grades and then be academically excellent in classes. So I'm from Sri Lanka, and then that's the sort of the mindset that we grew up in. So then we always talk about the technical or academic excellence, and then by pursuing that path, I felt like we missed the soft skill component, and then so I think that's the number one priority. Like if you could get on that soft skills and then that network inside of it, I think that's the number one priority, because technical skills is something that you can teach someone, but the soft skill is very hard to teach, and then you have to actually put in some effort by yourself to adopt those soft skills by yourself. So I think that network, and then my advice to the young IT professionals is try to do that. If you are still studying, try to do that as early as you can, because it helps you with your communication methods, and then how to face in an interview, and then with your presentation skills, and it gives you sort of like an all-round package for you in your toolkit. So I think that's the main thing, and yeah, so network can unlock a lot of hidden doors. So as early as that you can start it, I think, yeah, you'll be in a really good pathway.
Great advice. Thank you, Dylan. And on that note, you're very well connected personally and professionally. What networks or resources would you recommend IT professionals to tap into?
Yeah, I guess variety of things, because a resource can be starting from several medias that you can access to all the networking events and things that I just mentioned. Because IT is a bigger umbrella, and then inside that you have cybersecurity, data, as Manjuja has mentioned, data, AI, and project management, and data architecture, and enterprise architecture. It varies. So I think what resources or network would I recommend is first research about like if you are certain about a specific category. For example, if you want to be a cybersecurity person, then have a look at what are the cybersecurity associations here in Melbourne, and then try to be connect with them, and then try to establish that connection first, and then that would really help advance your career. And then if it's not cyber, or if it's, for example, cyber, I know there is an organization called AISA, the Australian Information Security Association. And also if you're just looking for something in general, like Australian Computer Society, where Manjusha also served as the executive committee member. So they also provide good platforms where people can join in for networking events and then meet with like-minded individuals. And so I think platforms like that, that would really help the students and IT professionals. So there are platforms exist out there, but I think most people doesn't really know that it exists and then it has this many potential.
Great tips. Thank you for that. And you setting a lot of different bots and networks. I think that's a really good tip. Thank you for that. Last question from my end, Dylan. What advice do you have for international students, local international students who are about to graduate their IT degrees and trying to get into the professional job market?
Yeah. So I guess this. With the job seeking, there's always two approach, which is first the networking event thing that I just mentioned, and also with the resume and then CV, and like, because you have to get that balance correct, because you can't just rely on applying CVs and then expect someone to call and then get into an interview, and also you can't expect to go out to 100 networking events and then expect to get a job. So it's just getting that balance correct, and then just putting yourself out there, like if because I'm always highlighting networking, because all the international students, that's the part that they want to grow, because that's sort of like, because since I mentioned that culturally we were raised for the academics, another thing that we were culturally raised was don't talk to strangers. So because of that, we were very shy and go out and talk to a stranger as well. So I guess once you can break those barriers, that would really help you. And then if you are still studying, if you can start to slowly break those barriers, I think it will ready you for your first interview, because your first interview wouldn't feel like an interview. It would just feel like just a casual chat with some person. So if you can get into at least to halfway there, I think that would be amazing. Speaking from experience. So yeah.
I think, and speaking from experience and personal experience and professional experience, that's really good combination and great tips. Thank you so much, Dylan. That concludes the questions I had for the panel members. Now we open the questions that the attendees have. Liam, will you be able, please, to read to us any questions?
Yeah, I'll do that now.
Thank
you guys, and please keep sending questions in the chat as you have them, and we'll try to get through as many as we can. I'll also, in a little bit, send through a link in the chat about Opportunity Wyndham and some of our partners. A lot of the questions in the chat are about how do you find roles in the IT sector and any tips and tricks and whole range of things. And our panelists will have some fantastic insights. But at the end of today, I'll also send some information about some of our partners who can support you in your employment search after today as well. First question, though, for all the panelists is from JP, which was, what areas of IT are less saturated in order to find a job? Or what are the types of IT job opportunities that you would encourage somebody to apply for if they're really looking for work at the moment? And we'll open that up to all the panelists.
Maybe I'll start first. So it is a hard question, but I have been talking to a lot of people especially in state government, and they are talking about a gap, especially in the cybersecurity area, quite a bit. And they are saying that there is a lot of requirement, but they are not able to fulfill. So this is especially from DJSPR. So they were looking like there are employers who are looking for, especially they look at migrant population, their skills, and they want to actually marry those, like the requirements in cybersecurity, and looking at who are the migrants with their skills. So they are working on that project as well. So the cybersecurity definitely is. But having said that, in many areas, there are roles where specific requirements are still there. Like, for example, I was frantically looking for somebody with Databricks skills on AWS, which was a little different combination because people normally work on Azure with Databricks. So there can be some jobs out as well in very populated fields. But having said that, yeah, cybersecurity definitely is an area which you can look at. And another area where we are making a lot of investment right now is GIS, geospatial analytics. So that's where a lot of companies are also interested with focus on ESG. Accessibility, the GIS focus also increasing. So that is also the area you don't get a lot of expertise in the market.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Manjusha. And I think it's really good to hear, from some of your insights and like hearing from government and different companies as well in terms of some of those gaps. Anybody else have anything to add to that question?
I would just echo on Manjusha's comment regarding the cybersecurity, because if someone would have to ask this question 5-6 years ago, then I would say data and data science would be the hot topic back then. But then now that is shifting from data science to cyber, and then even cybersecurity has a lot of sub branches. Like there's another component that I just recently heard, like critical infrastructure. Like how do you build an infrastructure, because in a cybersecurity infrastructure in a way that it's very safe, sort of a thing, because now it includes not just cyber, but then again data architecture, enterprise architecture, and things like that as well. And also there's like digital forensics. So that's that. So when I first heard that as well, it just put my mind blown. Like all these, like there are good like new cyber security concepts, and as Manjusha mentioned, there are a lot of demand, and then the state government and even federally, like with all these agreements and defense and things that's going around. I'm sure that there's a huge demand for cybersecurity. Just want to add that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And probably, sorry, just to add, the other thing is the cloud computing, which is kind of off the back of those things. There's a big move to sort of your SaaS systems out there. So looking at that side of things too, in addition to what the other two have spoken about.
Yeah, and then just before I forget, so all the AI and like machine learning engineers and things like that, that's also getting. So this is not like data science, but it's like more like advanced than data science, like machine learning engineers. So it's a lot more technical than data scientists, but that's also a field that I could see that there's a lot of demand in. Yep.
Really fantastic insights, I think, to hear from people in the industry about what are you seeing coming up and even how trends have changed in the past 6 months to now. Obviously a very quick moving industry in terms of some of those trends. So I think that's really fantastic. The next question I have is, there's a question about which companies are currently taking multiple roles, and I think people are looking for work. If anybody knows some companies hiring, that's awesome. But maybe the question I'd rephrase it to is, what are some of the ways that you have found it worked to find the right company for you, or some of those more, I know Dylan, you were talking about some of those networking groups and that role that played for you in your journey. I guess any tips for people who are really struggling to find work at the moment in terms of other avenues to kind of find some of those opportunities?
Yeah, I can take that question. I think when you are applying, are you actually spending enough time on researching what the company is really doing and what they're trying to solve by hiring you? So yes, I go maybe as an expert in Power BI, but then I just don't talk about what Power BI skill I have, what dashboards I have developed, but can you make it more tailored to what they might need in your interview process? So understanding why that particular role has come up is very important. Just research yourself. Also research, if you know the interviewers, research on them as well, that what they have been doing, what is their interest area. Those are very important things. And third, keep your answers to more like just not talking about your skills, but exactly the cases that you have actually delivered. And if you can give the examples of what you have done in that particular business situation and relate it to the business, your interview will be more effective than just talking about technical skills. Because technical skill, as Dylan mentioned, anyone can learn.
And that's really critical. I think that's one of the things that we see in the job applications that come through, very few have actually rang and spoke to the hiring manager to find out what they actually want in the role. Are they looking for a customer service? Are they looking for a highly technical skill? What kind of a team are they being part of? Are they working on their own? So understanding what the needs are for the role in the organisation is really important as well. And the more hiring managers that you speak to, you'll get a greater understanding of where you might fit and what transferable skills you might have to be able to bring to the table.
Yeah, I just want to add on as well. During my interview with the council, I just remember that initially I was also quite, not say clueless, but there was like council has so many services, and I wasn't really sure what the DAI team actually manages in that at that point of time. So getting clarification, I think, might have stood out a little bit, because I just remembered my senior dev certainly was like very like enthusiastic to talk about the projects they have done before. So in terms of that, I guess that might be a very good something for them to remember by doing interview process as well.
Thank you. I think that's really, really great advice about, again, what some of the ins and outs of when you are looking for roles, what like tips and tricks to help you in that journey. I think it kind of links onto one of the other questions we had, which are about what are some of the worst types of CVs and good CVs for somebody in the IT sector. The lights have just turned off on me in this room, so I'll wave my hand around and try and get them to automatically turn on. But I guess any general tips from panelists, you kind of touched on it a second ago, but in terms of CVs or cover letters or interviews, just in that employment journey, any tips and tricks specifically for when you are in the IT sector, knowing that's a really broad sector as well?
Tailor your CV and tailor your cover letter to the role. Too often you can see the same cut and paste CV that's coming through, and they're not understanding what they're applying for. They're not understanding what's needed. They're not understanding which skills of theirs are transferable and how they can be used in other ways. And equally, when you do have a set of requirements or skills, don't say, I have got that skill, I have done that thing. Like, give some detail or make it specific and leave some room to make us interested in you and finding out more about you. We want it to encourage a conversation, so that we want to find out more about you and what you can bring to the table for us.
Yeah, I just want to give one example here. I had like 10 pages CV before, and I had applied to one of the roles, and then hiring man rejected it. And I actually called her asking that why. She said, who has time to look at your 10-page CV? And that was very new, so I didn't know anything that time. And then I took time to make it like 3 pages. So because what I thought, like my 15 years experience, how I need to put everything out there. So it was a big CV and nobody has time to look at it.
Yeah, I think sorry.
No, you go ahead, Ling.
I think in the CV as well, I think it's pretty good to use when you list out your tasks, when you do put in numbers, like how many, like let's say, like what kind of percentage have you tried to increase the efficiency of this particular task, or like don't just say, I think, sorry for the example, in the sense that don't just say what you do, but try to put in like numeric that people can relate to, like, for example, increase efficiency of the system by 70%, manage to increase revenue by this much money. I think putting numbers gives a better kind of indicator to the recruiters in terms of the effects that you bring to the table as well for your past experiences.
Dylan, we're gonna add?
Yeah, and then the only thing that I need to add, and I think this echoes what Bronwyn has mentioned, which is when you have to you have to tailor your CV or resume to the job description. So the easiest way that you can do is have a look at the job description where it says a paragraph about what this job is, and then what are the skills that needed, and then what are your responsibilities, and then try to ask yourself, like, how much of that you tick, and then try to address that. So you're pretty much answering the questions in the job description in your CV. So if you can do that, so whenever someone's reading that, so that really would stand out. So that's the first thing, and then the second one is now I'm again going back to networking, but which is if you have already attended and if you have that networking experience, you could add things like that in your resume, because that would definitely stand out. Like if you are an active member of, let's say, that Melbourne Data Science group or Melbourne Cybersecurity group, and if you have done a panel discussion, something like that, like if you have contributed to that, a resume like that highlights among other resumes. So that's why I'm always trying to have that as a highlight as well. So that first look at the job description and then make your resume sort of like answering that the job description's content, and also try to include the non-technical things that you're doing outside, and then the volunteering work that you're doing outside, things like that in your resume as well.
Yeah.
Can I just add, I put a little comment around the worst, and I said ones that are clearly written by ChatGPT. And by that, I mean, dear hiring manager, please take my resume, blah, blah, like it's so obvious that you haven't even edited. ChatGPT is a brilliant tool, absolutely brilliant, but it's a tool. It's not the end result. So by all means use it, but please edit before you go sending it through. And when we read paragraphs of what was already in the position description or what, you see it straight away and you think that person's not thinking. They're not thinking for themselves. They're not going to come with some good ideas. And so it's not really going to get you through the door.
Definitely. Thank you all so much for that. I think that's really, really valuable advice for somebody. And I think to hear, again, from people in the industry, in different roles, in different parts of the industry, about what's worked for them and any tips and tricks for people. I've sent some links in the chat to our Opportunity Wyndham partners. And so we have a whole bunch of different partners operating in Wyndham who provide free and a whole wide range of employment support. So I'd really encourage people to check out on our website and see some of those partners. I've also sent a link specifically to the Gordon Skills and Jobs Centre and their career advisors. That's a free appointment that anybody who lives in Wyndham or Geelong can book to have a one-on-one appointment with a career advisor. And that can range from saying, I saw somebody in the chat saying, I'm interested in courses in IT. You can talk with them about that. But you can also say, I want to update my resume. I'm returning to the workforce and I'm really interested in that. And it can be as detailed as, this is this role that I'm applying for. Help me update my CV and cover letter for this role as well. So that's a free appointment. You can book as many times as you'd like. We have a range of different services through Opportunity Wyndham, but that's the one that seems most relevant to this conversation, I'd say. I don't see any other final questions. Yasin, anything else to touch on before we wrap up, or panelists, any final thoughts or comments to share?
I just had one quick question for the panel members, and this coming from some of the people we supported. For parents who have parental requirements and looking for an IT job, what advice will you give? What advice will you give them? In terms of, more about trying to balance work.
As you saw a child come up in the background, or two different children come up in the background. Look, I think some workplaces are more family friendly than others. So if you know that that's part of your life, and I'm sure probably Manjushu, you can talk to this a little bit more than I can, but if it's part of your life, look for those family friendly environments. Look for where you have got the work from home opportunities, look where there's flexibility in the work, because if you're a good operator and you're doing a good job, you will be supported in the workplace in those places to be able to do it under the conditions that work for you as well as for the business.
I absolutely agree with Pawan. I think a lot of companies are offering work from home options now. Even some companies also offer part-time working options as well. And if employer actually values you, definitely they are open to discuss those flexibilities. It's not very hard nowadays, but of course there is a lot of balancing that you still need to do when your children are small. So you have to go to that phase. And as long as you have supporting partner, that becomes much easier for you. But yeah, I mean, it is more like employer needs to also be little flexible. Your teams need to be little flexible, but supportive on that. that would definitely help. But of course, it is not an easy journey. I don't want to simplify it as such.
No, it's not. And don't apply for something that's saying that it's, 38 hours minimum and expected on site all of the time. So set yourself up for success, I think is really, really important. And be prepared to have the conversations. And also maybe be prepared to change what you're looking for initially to have a step in the door. Maybe it is more of a customer service role that you could do now, which will open up opportunities in other parts of the organisation.